Hello, this is Brian Foster. Welcome to Kardec Radio Facebook page. We are live streaming on Sunday, June 7th, 2020. So please tell your friends about our live streaming every Sunday night. I will put this video up on YouTube and BitChute. Please subscribe, hit the bell, hit the like button on YouTube and BitChute if you please. Tell everyone around it. Let's spread Spiritism far and wide. So, what are we talking about today? Seek and ye shall find. Now, this is chapter 25 in the Gospel according to Spiritism, which is a wonderful book. And I've been going through that for quite a few, half a year. So, let's get into the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 25. Seek and you shall find. Now, this is from Matthew chapter 7, verses 7 to 11. Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asks receives, and he that seeks finds. And to him that knocks it shall be open. Or what man is there of you, whom if his son asks bread, will he give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will he give him a serpent? If you then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father, which is in heaven, give good things to them that ask him? So, Kardec writes this: from an earthly point of view, the maxim, seek and ye shall find, is the same as that other one, help yourself and the heavens will come to your aid. This is the base of the law of work, and consequently, the law of progress. Since progress is the child of work, seeing that this puts into action the force of intelligence. During mankind's infancy, he only used his intelligence in seeking food as a means of protection against the climate and defending himself from his enemies. However, God has given man something more than he gave to animals, which is an incessant desire to better himself. It is this desire which impels him to seek out the best ways of improving his position in life, which duly leads to make discoveries, to invent things, and to perfect the sciences, because it is science which gives him what he lacks. Through man's research, his intelligence heightens and his morals increase. The needs of the body gives way to those of the spirit. After material nourishment, man needs spiritual nourishment. This is how he passes from savagery to civilization. But the amount of progress achieved by each person during a single lifetime is very small indeed, and in most cases, even imperceptible. How then could humanity progress without pre-existence and the re-existence of the soul? Let's talk about that for a second. So, there's a great passage in the book Hell Christ, and it's a book about 200. It's by the Spirit Emmanuel, talking about the Christians about around 200 years after the death of Jesus, during the times of Rome, and the Romans were still, they're going in and out. Every a different emperor or a different time, they would persecute Christians. A very good book, Hell Christ, Ave Christ in Portuguese. But in this book, it was saying there's always going to be managers and workers, because they're saying, well, Christianity, everyone's equal, right? Everyone should be treated equal, and this person said, yes, everyone should be treated equal. Everyone should be treated nice. But there's always going to be different people on different levels of spiritual maturity, because as people are reincarnated, they are reincarnated. Some are reincarnated who have been in life after life and actually have made progress in life after life. And some people who are being reincarnated in life after life made hardly any progress, or parked themselves, as they say, on the same existence, the same materialism, hate, selfishness, etc. And they're not mature enough to even to direct any type of great enterprise, even lesser enterprise. And of course, this is a lot of what Alan Kardec is saying. He says, well, first of all, a human is male and female, has this desire to better themselves. It's innate in ourselves. But how does that work with our primitive emotions versus becoming more civilized? And that's why there's always going to be inequality as far as capability and competence on the earth. But that doesn't mean that each one of these people will someday, far in the future, all be equally pure spirits, all good and interesting in their own way and their own unique personalities. But here on the planet of atonement, even planet regeneration, there are always going to be people on different levels. And that's why he's saying is, you know, humanity progress, right? And the only way you're going to progress is having people come back again and again. If the earth only had new souls, new spirits come to the earth as start a new life, who were like started in the primitive planet, we would never have gotten out of the tribal age. It took maturity to do that. In fact, it took souls coming in from other planets who were not primitive, or not the very basic primitive humans, to actually invent fire and other things, right? So it all took a spark, and it was all given to us by the spirit world. It was leading us forward. So, and then I'll carry on what he said. So he said, if the souls who daily leave the earth were never to return, then humanity would be constantly renewing itself with primitive elements, having everything still to do and learn. There would be no reason why man should be more advanced today than he was during the first epochs of the world, because at each birth, all intellectual work would have to recommence. On the other hand, by returning with a degree of progress realized and acquiring something more each time, the soul then gradually passes from the barbaric state to that of materialistic civilization, and then on to one of moral civilization. If God had exempted man from bodily work, his limbs would have withered. If he had exempted him from intellectual work, then his spirit would have remained in a sense of infancy or mere animal instinct. This is why he made work a necessity by saying, "Seek and ye shall find, work and ye shall produce." In this way, you are the product of your work. You receive the merit of it and a recompense in accordance with what has been done. It is by virtue of this principle that the spirits do not help in sparing men the work of research by bringing them discoveries and inventions prepared and ready for use in such a way that they would have nothing to do but accept what was put into their hands without any inconvenience whatsoever, nor even to bend down and pick it up, nor yet to think about it. If things were like that, then the laziest could enrich themselves, and the most ignorant could become wise at the cost of no effort, and both would have merits attributed to them for things they had not done. Then he puts in italics, no, the spirits do not come to exempt man from the law of work, but only show him the goal to be reached and the pathway that leads there by saying, walk and you will get there. So stop there for a second. And people have asked, if you want everybody to believe in God, why doesn't God just show himself, right? And the answer is, if God came down and did some miracles and say, and people would look at, oh, there's God, and I guess I better make myself better. And it would on the outside of themselves, they would say, oh, I better not rob that store, or better not take advantage of that person, because God will punish me. And that would not really change their inside, would it? It would not change their basic character and personality to actually love their fellow men and women. And then, a year or two later, after God came and disappeared, people started rationalizing well, that was probably, he's not back. We can do what we want to. It would not change anything. The change has to come from within each one of us. And the same thing as for us to learn these other attributes of the necessity of working, the necessity of serving others is for work, because when we work, we have great pleasure in seeing what we've done ourselves. It's very exciting. So that is why, life's not easy here, because we have to learn to work and find our way there. And Allan Kardec, I'll finish on what he says. He says, "You will find your path strewn with stones. Look upon them and then move them. We will give you the necessary strength if you care to utilize it." So, from the moral point of view, these words of Jesus signify that if we ask for the light which will show us the way, it will be given. If we ask for strength to resist evil, we shall receive it. If we ask for the assistance of good spirits, then they will come to accompany us and do as the angel of Tobias, they will guide us. If we ask for good counsel, it will not be refused. And if we knock on his door, it will be open. But we must ask with sincerity, faith, confidence, and fervor. We must present ourselves with humility and not with arrogance, or we will be abandoned to our strength, and the falls taken will be punishment for our pride. This is what is meant by the words, "Seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened." So, very interesting what Allan Kardec said. Now let's find some more examples of that, because asking ye shall receive, right? So the good thing is, how does all this work? Is seeking you shall find, asking you shall receive. And we've all done where we've asked for help and it doesn't come in the way we want, or and it doesn't come right away, or it comes in maybe we think in a worse matter. So let's talk about that, because the spirit world does listen to us, and they do analyze what we ask for. And so let's see that, how they do analyze. And a lot of this has been revealed in the book Life Beyond the Veil, in the Lowlands of Heaven section, is how prayer is actually analyzed. Because our prayers receive more attention than many of us believe. One of the recurring themes in Spiritist literature is the care and consideration of our prayers. We are listened to in the spirit world, no matter how small or inconsiderable we think ourselves to be. Our requests are analyzed. Now, in the book Life Beyond the Veil, there was a communication to the Reverend G. Val Owen from the Spirit Astral, and it touches upon the power of prayer and meditation. And this is very interesting. It tells us how connected we are to the spirit world. This is what he says. Prayer is not merely the asking for something you wish to attain. It is much more than that. And because it is so, it should receive more careful consideration than it has yet received. What you have to do in order to make a prayer a power is to cast aside the temporal and fix your mind and spirit on the eternal. When you do that, you find that many items you would have included in your prayer drop out from the very incongruity of their presence, and the greater and wider issues become to you the focus of your creative powers. For prayer is really creative as the exercise of the will, as seen in our Lord's miracles, such as the feeding of the 5,000. And when prayer is offered with this conviction, then the object is created and the prayer is answered. That is, the objective answers to the subjective in such a way that an actual creation has taken place. Now, there's a question here for someone. It says, a lot of people do not believe in God. Does God really exist? How does God exist and guide us through our lives? And that is really what I'm talking about right now, is the answer of prayer. This is one of the areas of how the spirit world actually helps and assists us throughout our lives, and that is the answering of prayers. And if you would like to learn even more about the spirits in the spirit universe and how it all works, you can go and read my book, Heaven and Below, book 1 of Spiritism. Talks about heaven, talks about the the lower zone, the dark abyss, talks about Jesus Christ into heaven. And then also, you can read, then my next book in the series of 3 is, let me get to there. Oh, is Spirits in the Spirit Universe and the power of spirits, what we are when we are in the spirit world, and what are our attributes and how we graduate through learning from class to class and from level to level. And then really to answer your question is the third book is how we are guided by spirits, how we are individually guided by spirits, how all cultures, countries, and the human race are also guided by spirits. And it goes into great detail on how that occurs. So, and as I said before, this is something that we have to seek for ourselves. God's not going to come down and say, here I am, I'm helping you. No, you have to, you have to meet him part way, like a teacher, right? A good teacher is not going to give you the answers. You're going to have to demonstrate your intellectual curiosity and your stick to itiveness and your work ethic, and then you will be helped more and more. That's the same thing as what Astral is saying in this message. He says, make your prayer eternal. And what does that mean? Well, don't say, oh, I wish I had that new car, or I needed those new tennis shoes, right? It's, give me the power to do better so I can help others. And, at the same time, you can help yourself and, help yourself advance spiritually and help your family, right? And help take, the thirst for revenge and selfishness out of your heart. That's eternal. Those things will pay off more than you can ever believe. Now let's carry on with prayer, because this is a good example of how the spirit world actually is in league with us day after day, hour after hour. So what I just read from Astro, there are several concepts presented in the above, what I just said, that are not normally associated with prayer. First is the aspect of thinking about the eternal. Since we are here on earth to learn to be more loving and spiritual, praying for superfluous material possessions will not get all of the attention it deserves, which is to say, very little. On the other hand, desiring to be given strength to successfully end a trial with newfound knowledge, or to successfully complete a important task, is an imperishable attribute we would take with us for life after life. Praying for enlightenment, such as a solution to a problem or for the benefit of others, will always receive due consideration. This type of request, which illustrates a desire for the spiritual or intellectual self-advancement, is a sign of the spirit world that one is serious about their assignment on earth. The second concept is that our thoughts are translated into action. What we pray for, if it is worthy of an answer, is transformed into physical reality. Praying for help in finding shelter for your family so they may strive through their own trials without the worry of homelessness could, for instance, cause a person to rent out their house to the requesting family at a lower rate or with a smaller deposit or no last month's rent. All actions brought about by the manipulations of the spirit world on behalf of the person requesting divine assistance. Now, my example isn't merely an intellectual exercise. I have known people in dire straits, people who have selflessly helped others receive free housing, which comes out of the blue. A woman who was recovering from the aftermath of a near-death experience wasn't able to work, yet she still insisted in providing care for others. She was given, out of the blue, an opportunity to stay rent-free in a house. All she had to do was take care of a small park. Now, these are not coincidences, but planned assistance from the spirit realm. And this is why it's important for people who do not believe in God or the spirit world is to open their eyes and see how these things work. Chance is very little left to chance on earth. I know that is a concept that is not, most people don't believe that our trials and episodes and dramatic occurrences are pre-planned to give us the lessons we need. But the more we understand that, the more we understand the vicissitudes of life, and we're able to get through them in a much better manner. So, what we need to consider is that while on earth, we consider our thoughts to be perishable right now. And as quick as we think, they are gone. They are meaningless. And that's not true. Not when you know that you are connected all the time to the spirit world and all your thoughts are recorded. And when you really want something, even though you don't say I'm praying, the spirit world picks that up, and it picks up your inclinations and your desires and sees what they should do about them. Because our thoughts radiate outward from us. Each thought is tagged with our personal identification and most probably a timestamp and a location. And we know this by two sources, right? First, by what is told to us in Spiritist literature, and secondly, from accounts from near-death experiences. When people who have reported a life review during an NDE, they invariably describe the ability of the spirit world to recount their thoughts second by second and the feelings of others interacting with them. Nothing is lost or forgotten. Now, let's talk about people who pray for things that they really shouldn't. So, what about all those selfish prayers, like the ones I used to make as a kid, wishing for a new bike, or the most regular prayer I had, asking that school be closed tomorrow or a whole week if possible? So, this is what we were told. Then the project of the wheel glances off tangent, and the effect is only proportionate to the scattered rays by which the object is weakened. And also meets with opposing or regulating wills on this side, as the case may require. And so the effect is not attained as desired. So what have they told us? In essence, if we pray for something selfishly, it is duly noted, but mostly ignored. Like they just put that up like, oh, okay, another selfish prayer from that person, right? So when we pray for what we should not have, the answer may come back to us in another lesson. Be careful where you turn your attention, for your thoughts and desires may have unintended consequences. As an example, a woman recounted a near-death experience where it started off by she asking God to make her happy. Now, she had a good job, a wonderful husband, but this wasn't enough for her. Her prayer was answered. How was it answered? Well, not as she thought it should have been. She was in a terrible automobile accident where she was in intense pain. So bad she could no longer work. It was the lowest moment of her life. Then she said that she yelled at God, telling the Supreme Intelligence that her life was even worse. Again, her prayer was answered. How was it answered? Well, she took her pain medicine, and then she went out to dinner. She became so drunk that on her way home, she threw up in the car. And then, insisting she could walk to the front door without the help of her husband, she fell and hit her head. Then her husband drove her to the hospital. Only when she was recovering did she feel a transformation. For the first time, she felt what others felt. Instead of being a standoffish person, patient, and even the staff gravitated to her to tell her their innermost thoughts. Her husband was astounded. She was a changed person. Her original prayer was truly answered. She became content with her life. She didn't miss the old job and the bountiful salary. She dedicated herself to helping others. But to come to this point involved pain and anguish. It wasn't an easy road for her. Let me give you another example. I was at a medium's meeting. Of course, I'm not a medium. I was in the back, right? I was along the wall. There's other people at the table, not I. I was just there to observe. And this medium started saying, as letting the spirit talk to them, said, Zika, Zika, Zika. This is during the time when the Zika virus is out and killing people, some people. And then the spirit says, goes, I died of Zika. And goes, but I prayed and I wanted my neighbor to die of Zika, but instead I died of Zika. So, what happened to her bad prayer, right? Her very, not good at all, maleficent, evil prayer when she wanted her neighbor to die, but then yet she died. The funny thing is, when she went over and she was in, not in the physical world, she said, I still want my neighbor to die of Zika. I mean, this is why another proof that you don't change. Although said you don't become an angel when you pass over, you still are who you are. So let's go more about how the spirit world really answers our prayer and how they analyze our prayers. Let's carry on back in the communication from the spirit astral to the Reverend G. Val Owen. And they allow us, this is what's so good about the books by Reverend G. Val Owen, and that's why I put it in, and I collect these things and I show how these all work, and from other spiritist literature too. And we are allowed to peek behind the curtains to discern the process by which prayers are analyzed. This is what he says. For you must know that there are appointed guardians of prayer here whose duty it is to analyze and sift prayers offered by those on earth and separate them into divisions and departments and pass them on to be examined by others and dealt with according to their merit and power. Now, when I say that, doesn't the process seem like too earth-like, too much like how it would be done in a large corporation, I should say? How if people got in, mail and complaints, they would say, okay, this goes to this department. Okay, what can you do here, etc. Now, this is because as much as we wish it to be otherwise, Earth is a poor reflection of heaven. How people organize themselves, how work is done, and other mundane tasks. We bring our inclinations from our sojourn during the spirit life to our incarnated lifespan. Hence, in heaven as on earth, there are vast organizations and levels of management and separation of duties. But fear not, spirit bureaucracy is not like ours, uncaring, stiff, arrogant, and full of pompous managers. The vital point to be taken is the amount of care parceled out to every one of us. The spirituality is listening and responding. We just lack the sensitivity to recognize the effect it has on our life. It can be done by evaluating your life and the signals and synchronicities that have shaped your present. You can begin to reveal the marvelous ways in which you have been guided. You can do this yourself. And I talk about how my life has been prepared in my book, The 7 Tenets of Spiritism, how they impact your daily life, in which I go through and I analyze, and I see things in the past. I go, well, this must have been the spirit pushing me in a certain direction. It is amazing when you start seeing how you really are guided without your knowledge. It's like a young, kindergartner being herded someplace without them even knowing it. And that's what I talk about. I talk about how I found Spiritism, how I'm continually guided, how God loves us, how we're immortal souls, and how that really should pertain to each and every one of us. So I'm hoping that can help many people, open their eyes to the reality of the spirit world, because that is real. That is the reality. In essence, our life here on earth is like you going to a summer camp for 2 weeks and learning something. Your real life is back home where you're doing your work, right? And this is really what we're doing here on earth. We're here to mold our character and our personality. Now, Astral even talks about that there are some prayers which must be referred to even higher authorities, prayers which are beyond the capability of certain levels of heaven to determine the best course of action. And he tells us what is done with desires which are undecipherable. This is his quote from him. These we pass on to those of higher grade to be dealt with in their greater wisdom. And do not think that these latter are always found among the prayers of the wise. They are frequently found in the prayers of children, whose petitions and sighs are as carefully considered here as those of nations. So what's he saying? The requests of children struggling in dysfunctional families or other dire circumstances are carefully reviewed. The love of children is equal and even more profound in the spirit realm than it is on earth. In heaven, without deep love, a soul can't enter, while earth is home to many levels of incarnated spirits. some who have no love for anything or anyone but themselves. Now, finally, to dispel any doubt as to how prayers are analyzed and then acted upon, we are given this examples. Now, this is what Astro said. And this is where that when you read in Spiritist literature, you're not getting fuzzy. I mean, the New Testament is full of good information, but you've got to interpret parables and symbolism. And here in Spiritist literature, they start telling you this is the way it is, right? This is how this works. Now let me tell you what Astral said and see what you think. This is quote, "Thy prayers and thine alms are come up for a memorial before God. You will remember these words spoken by the angel to Cornelius. They are often passed over without being understood as the literal description of those prayers and alms as they appeared to that angel and were passed on, probably by himself and his fellow workers, into the higher realms. It is as if he had said, your prayers and alms came before my own committee, and we were duly considered on their merits. We passed them as worthy and have received notification from those officers above us that they are exceptional merit and require a special treatment. Therefore, I have been commissioned to come to you." I'll carry on what he's saying. "We are trying to put the case as emphatically as we can in your language of official business in order to help you understand as much as you may be able of the conditions here obtaining." End quote. So how often do we hear that communication in the spirit world is wrapped in a parable or the meaning is difficult to comprehend? Again, here is an example of a straightforward message, plain as day, to how prayers operate. In essence, when you pray, be worthy of what you ask for. Demonstrate previous spiritual growth or the desire for it. Ask for what only helps you or others to improve while on trial on earth, or at least to successfully complete a trial. Asriel tells us that prayers prove that angels shed tears. They see and hear what is requested, and their hearts cry out in pity and love. He asks us to remember that love and compassion are real objects in the spirit realm, just as is hate and greed. Remember, in the spirit realm, thought is action. You feel the hate, you feel depressed by the greed, just as you feel wonderful and enveloped in warmth by the love and compassion. And therefore, we are told that these emotions, they take on a type of solid form, a recognizable pattern, which are physical measurements of our progress and status on earth. When Andre Luis came to earth and he went to the city of Rio and he saw these gray clouds around people, that was because they had these primitive thoughts and they had, the selfishness and pride. And then they can tell right away on people that who are maturely, spiritually more mature, because they're brighter and there's less gray matter around them. And so on earth, we are guided to learn what we have lacked, failed, or have to atone for what we have done in our past. So hence, when we perceive as unfair suffering in our life is actually trials assigned to us for our betterment. So let's carry on with the gospel according to Spiritism. Now, this is from Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 to 21. This is what he says. "Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust do corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth nor rust does corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat, or what ye shall drink, nor yet for your body, what you shall put on. It is not life more than meat, and the body than raiment? Behold the fowls of the air, for they sow not, neither do they reap, nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much better than they? Which of you, by taking thought, can add 1 cubit unto his stature? And why take you thought for for more clothes. Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, nor do they spin. And I say unto you that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Wherefore, if God clothes the grass of the field, which today is and tomorrow is cast in the oven, shall he not much more clothe you, O ye of little faith? Therefore, take no thought, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or where shall we be clothed? For all, after all these things do the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father know that you need all of these things. But seek you first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Therefore, no thought for the moral shall take thought for the things of itself sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. So, and this is why I think that one of the things I talk about this in my book, How to Live Inner Peace Through Spiritism, is it's so much better to live in the presence. Now, when I say that, I don't mean just live in the present and don't think about tomorrow, don't save any money, right? You still have to do those things. You still have to think about long-term tasks and so on and so forth. But you need to have part of your mind always thinking, instead of the task is on hand, right? What you have to do, and always be worried about tomorrow, is you need to put part of yourself to always live into that day. And this is what Jesus is telling us. And that is, we need to see what messages are being given to us by the spirit world. We need to have our eyes open and ears that hear of how what we can do to become more spiritually mature. Now let's see what Allan Kardec says about this passage. Here's Allan Kardec. In a literal translation, these words would be a denial of all providence, of all work, and consequently of all progress. With this kind of principle, man would be limited to waiting passively. His physical and intellectual strength would remain inactive. If such were the normal conditions on earth, we would never have left the primitive state. And if this condition became the law today, then it would only remain to live in total idleness. This could not have been the thought of Jesus, since this would be a contradiction of what he said on other occasions, and also contradict the laws of nature. God created man without clothes or shelter, but he gave him intelligence so as to be able to make them. Consequently, these words must not be seen as anything more than the poetical allegory of providence, which never abandoned those who put their confidence in her, but wishes that all work in their turn. If providence does not always come in the form of material help, then it inspires those ideas from which is found the means of getting out of difficulty. And of course, this same concept of what Allan Kardec just said, the means of getting out of difficulty, that all parts of what I'm talking about, prayers are answered. And in fact, there's this great passage in the book, Memoirs of a Suicide by Yvonne Pierre. And in this hospital for suicides, they tell them, look, for those of you who felt depressed and you thought that you were trapped, that you were never going to get out of this trap, and the only way you could do was to kill yourself because, that boyfriend or girlfriend, husband or wife was really mean, or that job or something. It was an impossible situation. And what they said, these people said, if you only gave it another week, another month, another year, they said, God does not create any trials without an end and without a means to be victorious. Now you could say, well, what happens if someone dies of something? Well, that could be a mean of being victorious, that you've learned through that trial, and now you've left the earth because you've learned what you needed to, and you're in the spirit world, which is a much better place for many, many people than here on earth. So God will, there's always going to be an end to difficulty in your life. You have to look at your life as a series of trials that it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And then your next trial. And sometimes some of these could overlap, unfortunately. But these, usually, if you see your life, it's usually one episode after another. And it's interesting, right? So take that and think about that and think what you've gone through. Let me carry on from what Allan Kardec says, God comprehends our necessities and provides for them when needed. Nevertheless, man is insatiable in his desires and does not always know how to be content with what he has. Possessing what is necessary is not enough for him. He demands that which is not needed. Then providence leaves him to himself. So let's carry on what he said, because he said something very good, and it's something that I said at first, and I just want to reiterate it. When Jesus said, look, things are going to come to you, and Allan Kardec is saying the same thing, which we're trying to give to you, and that is, yes, you still have to work, and don't remain passive, but you can't just desire more material goods, and because at some point when you want, that bigger house or whatever, and you're going to work, 20 hours a day for it, you're not going to have any room left in your mind. You're going to have stress all over your body. You're not going to have any space left for meditation or prayer or loving your family or loving your neighbor or having something revealed to you that is spiritually beneficial. So that's why you have to balance yourself. Yes, you've got to work and you've got to feed yourself and your family and your extended family, whatever you have, but you also have to sit and smell the roses, right? You have to sit and let the love of God, let the love of the spirits around you, and then think about, what have you done that day? What have you tried to get rid of some of, not gossip at work? Have you tried to think nicer? Have you tried to help somebody? Have you done anything at all to just very little increase your spirituality, your love, charity, fraternity, and honesty? And that's what counts. So let's carry on with what Allan Kardec says. He says that the earth will produce sufficient to feed all of its inhabitants when man discovers how to administer the benefits which it offers according to the laws of justice, charity, and love for one's neighbor. When fraternity reigns amongst all peoples, as it does amongst the provincials of any country, then the momentary superfluity of the one will overcome the insufficiency of another, and everyone will have what is necessary. Then the rich man will consider himself as one who possesses a great quantity of seeds. If he shares them with others, they will produce 1,000-fold for himself and for them. And that's really what counts. And there's been good Christians and good Buddhists and good Muslims and everyone who believes in charity and helpful all throughout history. Even in pagan times, of course, have been really good spirits who help. And those are the people who are becoming more spiritually mature. In fact, I remember back in one of my ancestors, back, when before the Revolutionary War in Virginia, there was a great crops that, it was not very good. People were going hungry, and this person had enough food to feed a certain quantity of neighbors. So he said, look, I've got food, come and tell me what you have. And he had all the neighbors lined up. He said, okay, those of you who have something right now, can you get to one side? And maybe enough for a month or so. And those of you who have really nothing right now, kind of go to the other side. And so he says, look, for those who have, you can make it for a while. But for those who not, I'm going to give you what I have, that I have more than I need. And he gave them, didn't charge them anything. He gave them food. And that is how a good spiritual person really operates, is if he has the ability to give, but it doesn't mean he has to sell or take the shirt off his back. But if he has that ability, either time or material goods, to help people who really are in need, if these people really tried to eat them, to help themselves, not just be lazy, right? And you don't have to feed those people who refuse to do anything. Maybe being hungry a little bit is good for them. But for those who really desire and want to work, then those are the people that should be helped. And in fact, the Spirit World tells us all the time. There's some good information in On the Way to the Light. Emmanuel, talking about, yes, even like talk about governments. Governments should help people. They should get them back on their feet, but they should not have this society where people are on welfare for generation after generation. No, government should help someone get back on their feet and get back to working, not to be dependent and live a life of idleness. Because actually, by having a person live the life of idleness, you are being cruel to that person. That person needs to go out and work and learn and interact with the world and understand that what the pleasure of seeing the benefits of their own labor. And that's why this is so important, not to encourage generation after generation on the dole. People should be helped, but they should not be trapped into a life of handouts. So that's what and so as Allan Kardec says, he says, hence Jesus says, do not accumulate treasures on earth because they are perishable, but accumulate them in heaven where they are eternal. And what are treasures in heaven? Your personality and your character and your love is all there. So that's why Allan Kardec says, in other words, do not give material possessions more importance than the spiritual ones, and know how to sacrifice the first for the second. Now, so that's why it's so important, right? It's so important to know how this works and why you're on Earth. So let's carry on now. Let's take time we have left and go more into how prayers are processed. Now, this might be interesting to many people. Now, high on the upper boundary of the 10th level of heaven, there exists a colossal tower with 10 sides. Each side possesses the prayers and requests of a specific stage, from the lowest level of heaven up to and including the 10th level. A grand central station of thoughts, quandaries, conundrums, and problems which all need a response. Now, in this case, the spirit Zabdiel, who talks to Reverend G. Vallon, describes the location, and this facility of processing prayers is on the plateau. The ground is covered in stone, the color of fire, and the reflection of the stone permeates the air above to a height of about 100 yards. Then he tells about the building itself. This is what he says. On this level, space was one building. It was of 10 sides, and each side was diverse in color and in architecture from its fellows. Many stories it had, and rose a glittering pillar whose top caught the light, which came above the peaks of the mountains, and some far and some near. So high was this tower as it stood there, a sentinel among the mountains, a heaven, a very beautiful thing to see. It covered some 8 part of the square, and it had porches on each side. So there were 10 ways to enter, and each one facing one of the 10 ways. A sentinel in truth it was, for this watchtower of the highest regions of that sphere, but it was more than this. Each side was in touch with one of the first 10 spheres, and those who watched there were in constant communication with the chief lords of those spheres. There is much business passing between these heads of the different spheres continually. Here it gathered up and coordinated. If I might descend to earth for a name, I would call it the central exchange of that vast region, comprised in all those spheres, stretching from that which the borders on the earth zone, over the continents and oceans and mountains and plains of the second and then of the third, and onward to the 10th. End quote. So again, what we're being told in Reverend G. Vallon's book, right, and which I've got relayed in my series of 3 books, Heaven and Below. Heaven isn't just an ethereal group of clouds in the sky. It is organized. It has controls in place. It has a command and control center, just like any large city or country. This knowledge of heaven is what Spiritism so excitingly brings us. Andre Luis, now this is the books by the great medium Chico Xavier. Andre Luis, who dictated a lot of these books to Chico Xavier, is the spirit who told us of his ascent to one of the initial stages of heaven, to the celestial city of No Solar, described the various ministries and organizations which controlled the life of his beloved spirit home. In the book No Solar, Andre was told that while work is expected from everybody in the spiritual planes, rest was also important. So, and the one person who never seen the rest was the governor. So you could imagine, here's Andre Luis in the city where there's a governor and ministers and everything. This governor would probably be plugged into the watchtower because one of the levels, one of the 10 facing levels would be on that level. And that when he had problems in the city, he would ask for help and then the help would be given to him. And then the spirit Zabdal says that he went to this tower and visited it. And he went there and talked to the people. And he described the people there very stately. They received all reports, information, requests for solution of some perplexity or for some help in other ways. In perfect quietude of mind, they're always calm and collected. He says, when something more tremendous than usual burst upon them, they are unmoved and ready always, quietly confident in strength to cope with their task, whatever it might be, and with wisdom to make no mistake. So then he was invited into the tower, and he went there and he saw how it worked, and he saw that these communications would go on the walls, and you could like touch these communications, and then you could actually kind of hear and feel the prayer and the problem being described. And it was just amazing. It's like live data. It's like how now in modern computer science, how user interface is created and data is presented. It's not just numbers, right? Data is presented to you where you can actually see and understand the data better, right? The same thing in heaven is data is there, and it's just somehow it connects to you through, these advanced spirits, and they must have much more, some sort of apps into their spirit personality and character where they can interpret these things very quickly. So it just shows you how all this works. So anyway, I hope this helps explains about seek and ye shall find, and about how prayers and about how the spirit world works, because that is so important to all of us, is to know. And just as it was asked during this meeting, how do we know that God loves and guides us and assists us? Well, one of the ways is by studying Spiritism and understanding. And by studying Spiritism, you'll see how God loves and assists us. But it takes people to have their eyes open and to think about it, because it's so easy in this life to be influenced by our materialistic culture, where we want everything that we want and we desire what we want, and we think in terms of relative morality, which is a falsehood, and not worry about other people but ourselves first and foremost. Or we get too excited about some cause and we think by causing other people harm we can help something, which is not true, right? We always want to be polite and kind. Just because people think differently than you doesn't mean they are evil. That just means they think differently than you. So try to respect everybody, try to love everybody, and try to be a positive part of society in our culture, and help all of us get to the point where we love, we're charitable, we're fraternal. And we can't do that by tearing other people down. We can do that by being examples and giving what we can of ourselves. The victory of us, of the earth becoming from a planet of atonement to a planet of regeneration, won't be created by massive revolutions. The victory of us creating a paradise here on earth will be done person by person by person, by putting each grain of sand on that beach. That's the only way, is by us changing individually our character and our personality to be more loving and less selfish and less prideful, and becoming a higher gift of light, right? And becoming an example to others. That is how we will create a better world. So I want to say, everyone, God bless you. God bless for tonight.